Shalom, family. Shalom. I'm so glad you're here. And actually, I'm streaming this from two of my channels, my main channel and my secondary channel. I was looking at how to do that on StreamYard and I figured it out. Actually, I'm streaming this from... Let me take care of that. There we go. I'm streaming it from both of my accounts, and I didn't think I could do that, but I can. So that's really exciting, y'all. You know, I'm going to wait for a few more people to make it in, and I have some really interesting things I'm going to cover with y'all. And it just opens up some more proof of how we've been lied to all this time, y'all. And we know that in this society, they have done nothing but lie to us on a 24-hour nonstop cycle, and they're going to continue to do this. Just understand, they are never going to stop lying to us about our history. This is why it's up to us to research the history and learn what it is. We cannot rely on people that enslave us to be the ones that tell our story. We have to tell our story. And we have to make sure when we tell our stories that you're able to do it and pass it along. We need to do our story and make sure it's passed along so other people can know what the facts are when it comes down to our people. Now, one of the things they love to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to make us believe that we were all dragged over here from Africa. And we've come a long way. At one point in time, a lot of folks in our community would have believed that. But now that we have access to the internet and we can research so many things, we now know that's not the truth. There were many Black people in the land and been here for thousands of years. Never let people that floated over here from somewhere else tell you what your history is. Their asses came from somewhere else. When did they become the experts of the history everywhere? They're not. They're not. That is fake. That's fake. And we must see it for what it is, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, you never let people that don't have your best interests at heart tell your story. We must tell our own stories. We're fully capable of doing that. Many of us have been here for generations, more generations than the average white person. Many Black people predate white people in this land. Now, they'll talk about the natives, but many of those natives were Black, ladies and gentlemen. Many of them were. Not only were these natives Black, these natives sometimes were the entire state. And that's what I'm getting ready to tell you about when it comes down to the state of New Jersey. Before the pre-Columbus days, the state of New Jersey was filled with native Black Indians, the whole state. Back in those times, it was not called New Jersey. It was part of Delaware. And these men and women that lived throughout the state, different tribes, all had Black blood. Now, when you look around today, you're like, okay, well, where are the mass graves? In the state of New Jersey, the U.S. government buildings are built on top of the mass graves. Many of these residential neighborhoods that were built on top of slave cemeteries. This is why many of these things are not visible. We should see many slave cemeteries all over the place. You notice how we don't see them? You notice how we don't see mass graves of the natives? Because they built all kinds of things on top of those graves. Everywhere in New Jersey where you see a U.S. government building, that is the same site of a mass grave of native Indians. Absolutely. In New York, too. New York and New Jersey, Pennsylvania, all these states were very well connected, still are very well connected. A couple of years back, ladies and gentlemen, the Smithsonian took slave shacks out of the state of New Jersey and relocated them. Yes, we had slave shacks here. There were slave shacks up in New York too. And many of the ones that survived, the Smithsonian Institute have them. This is why you don't see them. We should see them all over the place. There were millions of people in this country that were slaves. You notice how you don't see a lot of the slave shacks? Do you see the extent these people have gone to cover all of this history up? Yeah, they have a lot of evidence. The Smithsonian got a lot of evidence, even on what I'm about to tell y'all. All right, y'all, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. We got 149 people. Please hit the like. Ladies and gentlemen, please hit the like. All right. Okay, y'all. Here we go. All right, give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Please give me a 1. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. All right, family. Great. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to either one of my channels to watch this. I got it broadcasting on both channels simultaneously. So that I just wanted everybody to be included on about what I'm about to say, because this does impact all of us. All right. And even you nasty, grimy trolls out there, you pay attention too, because I know you're there. You mofos follow me around like shit left on the street, sitting there with a bunch of flies on it. All right, let's get started, family. All right. In my state of New Jersey, there were 3 primary tribes: the Muncie, Lenape, and Shawnee Indians. Look at what these Indians look like. Look at how melanated they all were. Okay? The U.S. government does not recognize the Muncie, Lenape, or Shawnee tribes as legitimate Indian tribes. You know why? Because they were all black. That's why. They were all black tribes. So they were excluded as far as being counted as Native Americans. They are exactly us. They're not different, y'all. These are our forefathers. They are us. Okay, yeah. I know about the Indians in some of the other states. You're right. The Seminole Indians, you're absolutely right. But right now, I am focused on the Indians in my state that were in my state at one point in time. Ladies and gentlemen, the entire state of New Jersey, prior to the white man stepping foot on the soil, was part of the 13 colonies. Not only was it part of the 13 colonies, it was an all black state. You hear me? I didn't stutter. New Jersey was an all black state. Not only was it an all black state prior to the white man showing up, the language spoken in the state of New Jersey was Hebrew. And I'm going to prove it to you today. All of these different tribes, and this is the way the white man throws you off. Oh, this tribe spoke this language, and this tribe spoke this language. Always go to the root of that language, and you will realize the whole damn thing was Hebrew. They spoke nothing but straight up Hebrew back in the 1400s in the state of New Jersey. They spoke Hebrew in Canada. In fact, up and down the East Coast of America, Hebrew languages were spoken everywhere in every state. All right. Native American tribes of New Jersey. So back in the day, ladies and gentlemen, the entire state was once referred to as being part of Delaware. See, this is why you see Delaware, Muncie, Delaware, Unami, Delaware, and this is why you see Delaware, because back in those times, before the white man renamed it to New Jersey, it was called Delaware. There are no federally recognized Indian tribes in New Jersey today. Now, what they did, Indians were slaughtered in the state of New Jersey. The ones they did not slaughter, ladies and gentlemen, they took these Indians and relocated them to Oklahoma. And see, that's another thing that took place in the country. Not only were Indians massacred, many of them were uprooted from where they were born and raised, and they were thrown into different states onto reservations. Many Native American people were reclassified as Black. Oklahoma, that's right. Now, a lot of these Indian tribes that are there were not always there. Just understand, Oklahoma became a dumping ground for Indians that they had defeated, and the remaining ones ended up in Oklahoma. So the federal government refused to recognize Indian tribes in New Jersey. Most Native Indians were forced to leave New Jersey during the 1700s when Eastern tribes were being displaced by colonial expansion. So these folks were expanding their living space, taking over places that once where Indians were thriving. And they took them and threw them out so that the white man could build his home and make the lands his. All right, so these tribes are not extinct. They're not extinct, y'all. except for descendants of New Jersey Native American people who hid or assimilated into white society, they do not live in New Jersey anymore. Most tribes that once were native to New Jersey ended up on Indian reservations in Oklahoma. So all of these Black tribes at one time that was thriving in the state got thrown out. The ones that survived the massacres, they were thrown out. You know, there are so many stories that need to be told, y'all, that have not been told even once yet. Now, when I went to school, we did talk about the Native American tribes that once existed in New Jersey. Hell, there are even schools named Lenape and Shawnee here in my state. So they know what kind of Indian was here. They named some of the schools after these tribes. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this, because this is going to get deep. So please pay attention. This is going to get very deep. The Lenape Indians, I had a white teacher, female teacher, tell me, and everybody in my class, of course, that these Indians were once in New Jersey, and they spoke a language called Unami. Unami. Okay? And there were other tribes. Now, the Munsee tribe and the Shawnee tribe spoke a language called Algic. So Unami and Algic. Now, when you hear those two names, you would automatically think, well, these tribes spoke totally different languages. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's all Hebrew. It's all Hebrew. Hebrew Unami Dictionary online. It's all Hebrew. But the white man wants you to believe that these Indians all spoke different languages. And I said, well, how could they all be in the land all these generations and thousands of years, and everybody spoke a different language? They didn't speak different languages, ladies and gentlemen. They spoke Hebrew. So it's very confusing when they talk about an Indian tribe and they'll say, well, this is the tongue they spoke. Always go back and look at where that tongue originated. All language has an origin. Always remember that. All languages have an origin. And that origin is Hebrew. It's Hebrew. Okay, it's Hebrew. You know, North American redskin, there is nobody with red skin walking around here. Okay, that red skin, that's crap you got from the white man. Nobody is walking around here with red skin, just like no one is walking around here with black skin. People are different shades of brown. They're not black. Even when you look at white people, they're not white. They look pink, and some of them even look like a peach color. So don't come here with that red man stuff, because I can tell right there, you are buying into what the white man done told you what you are. You are a slave to what he said you are. Red skin? You don't have red skin. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Pick up a piece of red cloth and stand in the mirror, and you tell me if it looks the same. It don't. Those are classifications that were given to your people by white people. And you still trying to use it for yourself. That says a lot about you. All right. So the Lenape spoke a Hebrew called Unami. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, they spoke this tongue all the way through the time they were relocated to Oklahoma. There are still very few people that are speaking the language today. You know, they, just like us, we don't speak our native tongue since we've been in captivity. We're not. You know, all of us, our identities got screwed up. And the same with these Indians when they were all relocated out of New Jersey and thrown into Oklahoma. They lost a big part of their identity. So just mass confusion everywhere. Now, the Shawnee and Muncie Indians spoke what they call Algonquinian language. Okay, this is what they said they spoke. So I was like, okay, and for short, they call it Algic. So I'm like, okay. Now, this man right here, actually, he wrote about the Algic language that the Indians were speaking. And you can find this on Amazon and read it for yourself. This man's name was Henry Schoolcraft. And he actually studied the Indians that were here in New Jersey and their language and their Hebrew customs that they had at the time. That's right, Hebrew customs. So this is what he said in his book. And let me go back. I should tell you, Algic researches comprising inquiries respecting the mental, volume 2, perfect library. This is on paperback, $15.90 on Amazon. I'm going to show you an excerpt from this book. Okay, so it says, and hence, it is hence that the Hebrew, the initial language, becomes so important in the investigation. We may indeed regard it as furnishing a key to the principles of grammatical utterance in the East. Did you hear what I said? Hebrew was spoken in the East, part of the United States. Okay? It was spoken in the eastern part of the United States. All right, so let's go on. It has been observed that the custom of female separation, upon the violation of which the present tale is founded, is a Hebrew custom identified with the written institution of the Pentateuch. What's the Pentateuch? The 5 books of Moses. The 5 books of Moses. Five books of Moses. A lodge of separation is established at these periods by all the Algic tribes. So he's telling you the Algic tribes spoke Hebrew and they had Hebrew customs that they lived according to the Pentateuch, which is in the Old Testament of the Bible. That's what they lived by. Okay? That's what they lived by. Hebrew customs. So I'm going to get even deeper with y'all on this one. There is a book called Native Americans as Mulattoes. Native Americans as Mulattoes. See, the Native Americans of today are not the original people that were in the land back in the 1500s. They are not the original people. Many of them are a mixture of Caucasian. And let's just put it this way. Any Indian tribes that are receiving reparations are not original Indians. If they are getting reparations, they're not original. Any Indian tribes that are not receiving any type of reparations, those are your original Indians. I can't sum it up any better than that. Okay, so the $5 Indians of today are the ones getting the reparations. All right, so let's get into the classification of Native Americans as mulattoes in Anglo-North America. Contemporary scholarly and popular literature in the United States has largely ignored the significance of widespread Native American ancestry among Afro-Americans and also of African ancestry among many Native groups. The consequences of this neglect are far-reaching, and this is especially true in relations to studies of evolution of music, folktale, social organization, and other aspects of culture. Okay. In a similar manner, the existence of a large group of red-black people, part American and part African, has been largely overlooked. And in fact, such people have been usually classified as Black by both scholars and North American statutes. Still further, the former existence of comparatively, a large number of Native American slaves has also been ignored generally, with great consequences for both early and Native Afro-American history. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about anybody messing with the page, y'all. We gonna go on with this. They can do whatever. Okay, they can do whatever. We are going on with this lesson that I have for you. Okay, there are, of course, exceptions to this pattern of overlooking the red-black connection. First, there are a large number of biographies and autobiographies, as, for example, of musicians or singers such as Adelaide Hall, Willie the Lion Smith, Paul Robeson, Josephine Baker, so it's just going over some celebrities, all of which have specific reference to Native American ancestry. Secondly, there is Almond W. Lauber, Study of Indian Slavery in Colonial Times, 1913, a work which has been grossly neglected in recent decades. All right. And thirdly, there are several early attempts to document or to note the significance of the Black American interaction. I wish to cite some of these works so to illustrate a trend which has not been continued by large since the 1930s. Okay. As early as the late 19th century, the 19th annual report of the Bureau of American Ethology noted that a considerable proportion of the blood in the southern Negroes of the U.S. is unquestionably Indian. Mm-mm-mm. Did y'all hear what I said? Our forefathers out in those slave fields technically were Indians. Wow. That's exactly what they're saying. So they said the blood of the Southern Negroes of the U.S. was unquestionably Indian. The 1937 doctoral dissertation of James Hugo Johnston, belatedly published many years later, went further. There developed in the colonial period, which intermixture of the Indian and Negro slave. The class commonly called the mulatto is the result in many instances of the union of the three racial elements. To the visitor in the South, the physical characteristic of many Negro slaves bore witness to their Indian origin. Y'all still with me? All right, don't forget to hit the like now. Hit the like. Come on, I got all these people watching. Y'all could at least hit the like. All right, y'all. I hope everybody is still following me. I don't want any confusion on what I'm saying to you. All right, let's go on. All right, so the mixed race in America today is the result of the union of the Indian, the Negro, and the white man. Johnston also noted that many Indians were enslaved along the eastern seaboard. The end of Indian slavery came with the final absorption of the blood of the Indian by the more numerous Negro slave. Numerous, y'all. Remember, I thought we were just some tiny little itty bitty, teensy beensy 13% of the population. So they were admitting that the Negro population was bigger than the Indian population that was in the country at the time. So if we're 13%, what are they, 10%? Yeah, right. Okay. All right, let's get back to this. So, but the blood of the Indian did not become extinct in the slave states, for it continued to flow in the veins of the Negro. Indian blood today continues to flow in the veins of the Negro. Woo! I tell you what, we are pulling the Band-Aid off now, aren't we? In an article published in the Journal of Negro History, and you can find this right here on Amazon, the Journal of Negro History, classic reprint. So if any of you are interested in getting this book, it can still be found on Amazon, hardcover and soft cover. It can still be found. Yeah. Okay. So the blood of the Indians is not extinct. It is flowing through the bloodline of the Negroes today. Where the Negro was brought into contact with the American Indian, the blood of the two races intermingled. The Indian has not disappeared from the land, but is part of the Negro population of the United States. Mm-mm-mm. You ever wonder why we keep changing? Our byword keep changing. You were Negro, then you were colored, then you black, and then you were African American. You notice how our name keeps changing we get a new byword. Like every so many generations, we get another byword, then another byword that we get called. The latter statement might offend many Indians today who still survive, of course, in great numbers as Native Americans, but nonetheless, the significance of Johnston's thesis as regards the extent of Native American African intermixture remains before us. Nor was Johnston alone. Frank H. Russell, in The Free Negro in Virginia, wrote in 1913 that one of the ways in which the free colored population grew was by the mixture of Indians and Negroes. He said also that there is no doubt that a considerable element in the free colored population of the 19th century was an Indian extraction. One can also cite the authorities whose work caused them to consider the intermixture of African and American racial stock. Helen T. Cottrell, in her work on slavery in Virginia, noted that we have shown that the first slaves were Indians, not Negroes. Did y'all hear me? Did y'all hear me? The first slaves were Indians, not Negroes, and the enslavement of Americans continued for many, many years. In 1903, a historian of New Jersey noted that unions between Indians and Negroes were so commonly frequent, indeed, as to have left permanent impressions upon many families of Negroes of the present day. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Says a lot, don't it? When our grandparents were telling us about our native blood, they were not lying. They were telling the damn truth all along. But there are some that want us to believe that we're making this stuff up. We're not making it up. We're not. We have no reason to make up history. We have absolutely no reason to lie about history. What would we gain? We're already an oppressed people. What would we gain from lying about history? Absolutely nothing. All right. So let me get back to this. All right. So Helen T. Cottrell said in her work in Virginia, noted that we have shown that the first slaves were Indians, not Negroes, and the enslavement of Americans continued for many, many years. In 1903, a historian of New Jersey noted that unions between Indians and Negroes were so commonly frequent, indeed, as to have left permanent impressions upon many families of Negro of the present day. E.B. Reuter recognized in 1927 that African American mixture had taken place within slavery and said the Indian slaves were gradually absorbed into the Black population. Also, during the 1920s and 1930s, the Journal of Negro History frequently featured articles on Black Native relations in Massachusetts. Paul Cuffey, an American African mixed blood, and on other examples of red-black interaction. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no way you can talk about Native American history and completely exclude us from the conversation. And that's what these facts are showing you. And this is also proof. There is no way we all came sailing over on ships. There is no damn way that is even possible. They relocated all of the Indians out of New Jersey into Oklahoma because they were Black. And the whites were taking over the territory that these Indians lived in. They didn't want to look at them Black Indians. That's why they got relocated. They didn't want to look at them. So when you look at the Muncie, the Shawnee, and the Lenape Indians, those were all Black tribes, ladies and gentlemen. All of them were Black tribes. Okay. Oh yeah, I know we're everywhere, pretty patients. I do realize that, but right now I'm talking about the state that I'm in, New Jersey. I'm not purposely excluding other tribes. I am just giving you the history on my state. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm sure there is tons, because look, my grandmother is an Indian out of Mississippi, a Black Indian out of Mississippi. So I am fully aware of, and well, that's how they pronounce it here, Carmen. They say Lenape. And they even say it, you know, I don't live far from a reservation here in New Jersey, and that's how those Indians pronounce it. So if it's wrong, then I have to check with them and find out. You know, I know a few of them, and they told me the word is Lenape. So if it's pronounced any other way, then they must not be aware of it either. You know, yeah. So unfortunately, I wish I could tell you that all of the history that we have learned in the land was accurate. It was not accurate, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't. Let me just tell you, it does not mean you can't get this information and learn it for yourself. Like I said, here you got the Journal of Negro History, and it talks heavily about the Native American and the, you know, how most of us today are those Native Americans in the Black community. Remember, the government did not want to recognize any of the Black tribes. So they are not counted today as Native Americans. They are counted as Black or African American, but they actually are natives of the land. Yeah, the Gullah Geechee. Yeah, I did a video on them when I first came on YouTube. And yeah, they're another very interesting native tribe. The Gullahs are definitely natives. Canada, you know, Carmel Macchiato, they spoke in Hebrew up in Canada. I actually came across some material that says that the native tribes were speaking in Hebrew up there in Canada. Yes, they sure was pretty patient. I mean, anywhere where you see the invaders, that's where it was once all Black. Very true. You know, and of course, you're going to see some people coming along and trying to interfere with what I'm saying. You know, they have an agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Their agenda is to always keep us in the dark and to make us think anything that they say and tell us, that's all we need to believe. And that is false. That is very false. Yeah, and see, a lot of people don't realize Indians in Oklahoma, they don't realize a lot of those Indian tribes, especially when they were Black, they originated out of New Jersey. You know, so no, our great grandparents and grandparents and even our parents, they've been telling us the truth all along, you know, and that's all we need to listen to. That's it. Yeah, you know, unfortunately, you're right. True Royal, Henry Louis Gate is part of the cover. Yeah, you know, there are a lot of people in our community that act as white supremacists. They do. They help to uphold this society and keep the lies going. You know, they like their life here. They like that, you know, some of these Black people out here are making good incomes and they got nice homes and nice cars and they think this system is fine. They don't want to give it up. So they think nothing about lying to their own people just to, you know, stay in the good graces of white folks. They think nothing of it. A lot of them, they are people that act and they're trying to keep white supremacy going. You know, so unfortunately, a lot of these people got Black skin. hmm Yeah, you know, and now I don't even want to see no slave movie because if they're not going to acknowledge, just like the information I showed you, that many of them were natives, then all that is just a continuation of the lies. I don't want to see that. That's true. Gates does have a white father, I believe. I believe his father is white. That's true. Yeah, but see, Black people are the original everywhere, and they know it. They know it. No, I mean the slave movies are a lie. And that native part that we are, it says that, the black slaves of the South were Indians. I just read it to you. And they never mention that in any slave movie that comes out. Never. It's always skipped over. It's completely, they always want us to believe we are other, Black Americans, African Americans, whatever byword they're calling us for the century. They always want us to believe that we are other. No, actually, everybody in this place is other except for us. They got the game backwards. We are the ones that are not other. They are other. We are original and everybody else is other. No, there were Angie 123, praise Yah. No, some were brought over on ships. Some were, but not at the numbers that they've been telling us. They want us to believe we all came floating over here on ships from Africa. But there were tons of Black people already in the land when they showed up. So no, Deuteronomy 28 is still true because there were some brought over on slave ships, just not all of us. Mm-hmm. We were shipped everywhere because, number one, they did not want this part of the history to be remembered. They didn't want this to be remembered. So they had to scatter us all over the place so that we could not continue to tell our stories. Right. So, they're being very disingenuous when they sit in our faces talking about go back to Africa. Many of us did not come out of Africa. There were some that did, but not all. In fact, we are more American than the people that are telling us to go back to Africa. Okay? We are more American than they are. And we are scattered. We're everywhere on this earth. We are everywhere. You're not going to look at too many countries and we're not in there some kind of way. Right. And everybody didn't come over here. The ones that were shipped out of Africa, some of those Black folks ended up in the Arab world being slaves there. And some were brought to the Western Hemisphere. But we are definitely scattered. Yeah. And we still are. Yeah, definitely, Copper Tone Tony. We are the original Americans. We are the original people. Everybody else in here, they all came from somewhere else. But we are the real true original. Right. Amanda Sharpley, that's right. Some of us did come out of Africa, but not all are African. That's right. But you know what? Mixture have always occurred with our people. Even in Egypt, there were some half Hamite, half Hebrews that came out of Egypt. We always had that going on in our culture. Yeah, but yes, he is going to regather us. And we are. We're going to be gathered, and look, spiritually everything is very different now than when it was even 10 years ago. So things are definitely changing rapidly, y'all. It's definitely changing. But you know what? China is going through that coronavirus. Do you know China? There's history of China killing off their black Asians. They're under judgment. They're facing a lot of judgment right now. You ever notice you don't see too many of those black Asians? A lot of them were killed off. Many of them were. hmm Yeah, they are, and I sure hope Africa is using all kinds of cautions, letting those Chinese people into the continent, because I can see the coronavirus easily spreading all over the continent because of those Chinese people coming in and out of the continent. hmm Yes, the original Hawaiians were black. That's true. There's still a lot of pictures of the original Hawaiians. You can see them with their dark skin and their woolly hair. Absolutely. Well, the coronavirus, y'all. Do you know Bill Gates owns the patent to the coronavirus? Bill Gates, Mr. Vaccine. Yeah, he is the owner of the coronavirus. So, for them, it's always an opportunity to make money. So you own the coronavirus, the patent to it. So then what's next? Oh, we need a vaccine. And then this man makes billions and billions of dollars off of a vaccine for the coronavirus. Yes, Bill Gates owned the patent. Yeah, it's a lab created virus. It is not a natural virus at all. It is a man created virus. Well, things aren't going to be the same once this Gentile world is over. Everything's going to be very different, especially after we're gathered. And believe it or not, we're going to be getting along just fine with the Hamites. They are our cousins. I know we don't get along now, but that's going to all change when we are back in our kingdom and leading the lives we should have been leading all along. Yeah, that's like a whole, with the Bill Gates and the coronavirus, that's like a whole different subject matter, on that. Well, there's a reason, Gary Johnson, why they wanted to have the patents office. And you can see they're still taking advantage of it even to this very day. All right, y'all, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I just wanted to go over this information, as part of Black history, because this stuff that I'm telling you very much impacts our lives. And New Jersey is one of many states. I realize this is not the only place this occurred, but I was just focusing on the state that I'm in based on the information I gathered. And some of it I actually learned when I was in school. So I definitely know that, Black Indians were all over the country. I definitely know that, y'all. So I want to thank each and every one of you that came on both of my live streams. I can't believe I was able to do this. I didn't think it was going to work where I could stream from both channels. I'm excited about this. I'm going to definitely do this more often so that, if you, maybe this will cut down on the people that tell me, oh, I missed your live stream because I only had it on one channel. But this will allow me to do it on both. And I love that. So everybody, wherever you are, please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed this time with you. And you all have a wonderful day. Shalom, family.